Welcome back to UPress Play, a sports show produced by Alright, give me a 5-second countdown. Oh, it says it's live. Welcome back to UPress Play, a sports show produced by FAU Student Media. I'm JD, joined alongside me is Megan and Cameron. No Maddox today as he's on assignment doing some radio stuff for the FAU women's basketball exhibition. It's been a while since Megan's been on the panel.
It's been a long time.
I know, she was just saying before we got on show that she's like, man, how do I even...
Yeah, it's like, what is this? There's a camera and...
There's lights.
It's okay, we're coming back.
Yeah, we're back with a Halloween edition. Some of us are in costume. Some of us are not, but that's okay. The memo was sent out in a good amount of time, but you know, it is what it is. I'm rocking Top the Gun today. Don't tell anybody, I haven't seen the movie. And Megan is... I don't know.
Mine was a last second decision. Oh crap. I'm like Mother Nature. We'll just put that. You can't see the skirt, but it ties in.
Yeah, so. It's given like, you know, like, I don't even know, garden vibes for sure. And Cameron is...
I'm me. I don't know what he said, enough time for the memo for a costume. It was not, but I'm just excited to be back and talk some ball with you guys.
Yeah, we are going to talk some ball. But before we get into that, we do want to give some condolences to USF men's basketball coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. He unfortunately passed away since last time we did the show. And just some really tragic news for the second-year head coach for USF. Who really seemed like he was going to do some great things to turn around that program and definitely just made the American Athletic Conference better with his coaching over there at the Bulls. So thoughts and prayers to his family and to the coaching staff over there and to the whole USF community. It's always unfortunate when you have people like that who are you know, up-and-comers in the world of college basketball and their time is cut short. Just really shocking news and condolences to him. But with that, we do plan to continue and talk some ball. Before we get into any ball, being that this is a Halloween episode, I do want to kind of talk about Halloween a little bit because I feel like as I've gotten older, I feel like I've like matured so quick to where like just like Halloween was like the coolest thing ever, and then you hit high school and then it becomes a thing where it's like you become too cool for Halloween, and it's like, oh well, you know, like what's that age would you think when you're not allowed to start trick-or-treating anymore?
Like junior in high school.
Yeah.
Really?
Junior? Okay.
Wait, are you saying
like you're no. I mean, I'll let you guys get your spiel off. But I like when I say trick or treating, I mean like you're dressed up, you're knocking on doors, and you're like asking people for candy. Like what's too old?
Once I entered high school, I was kind of questioning, should I be doing this? But I didn't. I think the last year I went trick or treating was actually like my junior year of high school. Because, like, I was trying to get free candy, so, like...
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you grow out of, like, wanting to get free candy, honestly. Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, the last time, like, I dressed up and trick-or-treated. Maybe, like, 8th grade, freshman year, probably?
Yeah, I want to say it was middle school for me, too, because I do have a distinct memory where I took, like, my little cousin to go trick-or-treating. I forget what he was dressed up as, and I want to say, like, maybe I was, like, a sophomore or a junior in high school. And for my costume, all I did was like put on a jersey, like a Colombian James Rodriguez jersey. And I just said that I was James. And I had like a little soccer ball with me. And I'm like, my cousin's like maybe like 4 or 5. So I'm like holding his hand, we're going trick-or-treating. And I kind of had the same thought process. I'm like, yo, I kind of want free candy too. So I had my own little basket. And in my head, like I was telling everybody like, oh yeah, you know, it's more candy for the kid. But like it was candy for me. And... There's like this old, there's this old crab couple. I mean, respect to them, respect your elders, but it was this like older couple on their lawn, and the guy's like, aren't you a little too old to be trick-or-treating? He goes, shouldn't you have a job? And I was like, dang, bro. Like, I was like, I do have a job, actually. I work at Auntie Anne's at the mall. Thank you very much. But
I never knew that.
Yeah,
That's
bro.
fire.
I was with the pretzels, man.
Pretzels actually that good?
They are. The cinnamon dusted ones?
Yeah, it was. If I wasn't like a kid who had like good metabolism and like can kind of just like have an iron stomach for the diet, it definitely would have messed me up. But like, yeah, pretzels every day. Or at least I was working weekends, so like it wasn't too bad. But yeah, once that dude told me like get a job, like don't be trick-or-treating. That's when I was like, all right, like clearly I've reached that age where I'm just like visually, like adults or like, you know, the parents of children who are giving out candy at their homes are just like, why are we giving this grown child a candy? But I agree with what Cameron said. I feel like you never grow too old out of it, but I just think it reaches a certain point where it's like taboo.
It's like other people, other people are going to look at you like what you just described, so you just feel like, I can't do it.
You can't do it anymore, right? Like if you're, like, because Cameron, you were telling me, I want to say yesterday how like you want to like post up at your crib for Halloween and just like give out candy to the kids.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that. Like last year I was like so excited to like have trick-or-treaters come to my house and like give out candy. Like we bought candy, had it in a bucket, we were ready, and like no one came.
That's what I'm gonna do that this year, and I'm so excited.
I feel like our generation has actually been a really like good sports about Halloween. Like some of the costumes that I see are really like thought out really well, really creative. But I don't know, is Halloween, like, to make it more sports talky, is Halloween underrated or overrated as a holiday around this holiday season, which I guess could be from like October to December? Because I would say that personally, I used to say it was overrated when I hit high school and I thought I was too cool for it, but now that I've gotten older and, you know, like people go to Fort Lauderdale and dress up, like I'm like, you know, maybe Halloween's a little underrated.
I think it's a little underrated. I feel like not necessarily the day, but kind of all the stuff that comes around it for the month. Like I've been rewatching those Halloween movies, you know, so the movies and like kind of just the whole vibe that Halloween brings. It's like entering the fall time and pumpkin carving, like all these like traditions that are associated with Halloween time, whether or not that's like dressing up for costumes. I feel like that's why it's underrated, because I love all of those aspects. Now that I'm older, like we carved pumpkins and I cooked the seeds, like that type of thing I enjoy. And when I was a kid, I thought, oh, this is so underrated. It's the best holiday. You get free candy and you dress up. So
yeah. I could agree with that. What about you, Cam? Is it underrated or overrated?
I mean, I don't really feel like one way or another. It'll just never be Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's the best holiday, like by leaps and bounds. Better than Christmas, better than Halloween, Easter. I love Thanksgiving.
I can't hate on that. What's the GOAT Halloween movie? And this is actually, because for my answer, it might spark some debate, but to me, The Nightmare Before Christmas is the GOAT Halloween movie. A lot of people say it's a Christmas movie. I don't think so. I think it's a Halloween movie. I think technically it could be both, but I just think there's better Christmas movies. So if we're putting Nightmare Before Christmas in that Christmas category, it's not gonna like really hold its weight. But if we're talking Halloween movies, I think Nightmare Before Christmas is the GOAT.
I think that's fair. I always grew up watching the Charlie Brown the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
It's not really a movie, but that's just.
No, that's throwback for me being like in elementary school, and they would always play like the Peanut holiday specific movie.
The theme song.
Yeah. I always try to do like when they're all on the stage and they're all doing like the dances.
Oh, for Christmas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of the dances really crack me up. But what about you, Cam?
I'm trying to think. I don't really like. Help me out. Like
Hocus Pocus is good.
I like the Goonies a lot.
Oh, okay.
That's like, I feel
that's a
like
throwback.
I mean, I don't know why, but I feel like, for my school, like we would always end up like watching the Goonies, like.
It's a throwback school.
Yeah.
They used to roll in the TV and then like throw the VHS in.
Yeah.
That's classic. But yeah, that's why we're in costume. But enough of Halloween. We're gonna get into our usual topic of some FAU housekeeping. Starting off with football. The football team just came off their second bye week of the season, and now they're looking to face USF. They're looking at a 2-5 overall record and 0-3 in the conference on the season, looking to get their first conference win against the Bulls, who haven't really been having the too hot of a season themselves. But yeah, I mean, last time FAU was coming off a bye week and played a team, they looked their best on offense, but still ended up coming up short. So yeah, there's a lot of hype surrounding this game. FAU did announce that they'll be closing the school on Friday early, I believe. Megan, do you have the details on that?
Yeah, that's what the school, they're telling faculty, like professors, that they have to make accommodations for their classes. All faculty, they have to be out of their, they have to leave their offices by 2 p.m. and clear all of the parking lots. They're doing this to accommodate for all the expected traffic for the game. Apparently, like Michael George, the deputy athletic communications director, he said that it's been a decision that they have made in the past based on when football games like previously occurred on weekday nights. It's kind of surprising though, like they're canceling all of these classes. They're closing the FAU Rec Center at 3 p.m. The game isn't till 7, so it's like, how much traffic are they really expecting where they have to clear out all of the parking lots? Like, I don't even believe that they've released anything saying that tickets are sold out or anything to that nature. So it's kind of putting the school at a little bit of a disadvantage, but it's like, it's kind of, I don't think that this has happened in the time that I've been here. This is my 3rd year, and they haven't done this in the past 3 years.
I'm trying to think of any like really prominent like
The only
Friday night games.
If this is procedure for weekday games, I'm pretty unfamiliar. The only other game where we played like a Florida school, but it was on a Saturday, was UCF. And
But that was on a Saturday, no?
it was a Saturday, but I'm just saying, like, in regards to the so-called hype that's going to be building up, it'll be interesting to see the turnout, because I know that I've driven from South Florida to Tampa when I went to go cover the USF basketball game. So it's not an easy drive, but there's definitely going to be the dedicated fans that want to go, because I will say the Boca Stadium is a pretty nice stadium.
Yeah, there definitely will be, and I'm glad that you brought up that UCF game, because I went and actually, like, 5 of my family members drove down from Orlando because they're UCF fans to attend the game. So with the location of the school, definitely a lot of fans are going to come out. And I think that this game also is just going to have more attendance because it's homecoming week. That's probably another factor that played into it. You know, they've been doing homecoming activities all throughout this week, and then they're kind of building up the anticipation for the game. So hopefully, you know.
Before we pass over it, though, definitely part of why they like are closing stuff at like 3 and like making sure professors are out by 2 is to give nobody excuse but to like be at the game. You have nothing else to do if you're on campus but to be at the game. That's why. So students, you have no excuse not to be at that game. And plus,
well, I could think of plenty of excuses, but you go ahead.
Come on, homecoming rivalry game.
Yeah,
can we get one good crowd?
Can we do this? Can we do this?
Yeah, I mean,
rivalry week.
Exactly.
Horns down. FAU by a million. Forget everything we said on the show about, I don't want to talk about FAU football. There's no point. It's hate week, and I just think it's so fun when there's actually like a so-called thing that you can do that like really pisses off the rival team.
Yeah.
With the horns down. It's just like, it's
I don't
so
know
easy.
if they're like as sensitive as Texas about it, but
Probably
I see
not.
what you mean. But no, like that's exactly why they're closing stuff so early, so like that students have no reason not to be at that game. And I think like in a game like this where like kind of like shifting into like what we think is going to happen, in a game where like both of these teams haven't lived up to expectations at all. Like FAU's 2-5, this team's 3-4. I think a lot of people expected at this point in the season both of these teams to be a lot better. And when you throw in the fact that we don't really know who's going to be playing quarterback for USF, Byram Brown is still questionable at this point. I don't really know what like his practice throughout the week is looking like. But they have not made a decision at quarterback. So when you have two, teams that have been really underachieving to this point, and throw them into like a pressure cooker, like rivalry type game, who really knows like what can happen?
Yeah, I did see somebody on Twitter call it the toilet bowl. But I think regardless, anytime you have in-state rivalries, I think that's pretty much a huge privilege, especially in conference. So stakes are high because it kind of seems like this is a loser leaves town showdown type of deal, because USF is at least is in contention for a bowl game, which was pretty much like the highest point of their season last year when they had their huge bowl game win in the Boca Raton Bowl against Syracuse, which was leading the hype for this season, and they've kind of fallen short on that. And same thing with FAU. This has been one of their easiest schedules since Tom Herman has taken over, and honestly this decade. And regardless, it still hasn't panned out the way that they wanted. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see. We'll be having predictions on the University Press website coming out, I believe.
No, they're coming out Thursday.
Yeah, they're coming
Yes.
out a day early since the game
Normally,
is.
They would be Friday, but.
Yeah, we got a
game
Friday game. Honestly, do you think? I mean, the FAU's coming off a bye week, but do you think this game being on a shorter week is to the advantage of FAU?
Longer week.
Longer
And
week.
I'm glad you bring that up. Yes, because think back, coming off their last bye week, they're in like a weird spot having two. Was North Texas, and that was the best
We saw them play.
all season by leaps and bounds. And ask them if you ask them. Plenty of us have, especially the offense. A lot of it had to do with having 2 weeks to game plan for a specific defense and not having to think too much and being able to play fast. So yes, I do think that will be to their advantage. But USF is also coming off their own bye week, which shouldn't be ignored either.
I didn't know that actually, journalism student, that they
Yeah.
were both coming off of bye weeks. But
That's
Unless
why
I'm mistaken.
it's
Unless
kind
I'm
of hard.
mistaken.
Like neither team really has the advantage in that sense. But it's kind of more what can they do to take advantage of the situation that they had, and I guess we'll have to wait and see how well they really prioritized getting to know each other's playing capabilities, like in practice the past 2 weeks. Because I mean, we saw last year FAU. It was like, I don't remember the exact score, but it was a pretty differential
It's like
game. It was like a
56-14
blowout or something.
56-14.
So-
yo, shout out Daniel Richardson.
You know-
That was an insane game. LaJohntay Wester went off. Who was the other receiver that we had that transferred out that he was going off to? Don't remember his name. Shout out to all the transfers, but
Yeah, it was a blowout, but the players that you just mentioned, Daniel Richardson, LaJohntay Wester, they played amazing that game, but we don't. FAU doesn't have that this season. They don't have that. They still don't have a go-to wide receiver, and that's the same thing that we've been saying this whole semester. So that's why I know that I feel like we can't really take. Normally, it's kind of like you can take how the teams matched up last season and kind of use that to slightly predict how it'll be this year. But in this sense, we can't do that because it's a whole completely different lineup that we'll be seeing, and that's where it's going to be exciting. It's almost like, I mean, we were kind of talking about this beforehand, but USF is a newer rival compared to FIU, and that's why personally, like, ignore the journalism part, but for the FIU game, I had more hate towards them. For USF, I feel like they're like newer rivals, so I don't really have that hate towards them yet. But they have to like come through now because it's another rivalry type setting.
yeah, I think a win, from the rivalry standpoint, a win would definitely benefit USF more just because FAU is coming off that blowout win. And I think that actually helps FAU from a marketing standpoint, because I think a lot of fans who aren't aware of the transfer portal or the fact that the two teams are completely different, I think a lot of the basic fans that are just thinking about it as a homecoming game, because this is indeed a homecoming game and there are going to be a lot of alumni who are there for that reason, as well as people from Tampa driving over to watch their team play in South Florida. There's going to be a lot of hype surrounding that game because to the general student who doesn't keep up with the team, they may just think, oh man, we smacked that team last season, so we're probably going to do it again. And honestly, being that every show we do talk about football, and when there's not too much to talk about from a wins and losses perspective, it's exciting to have a rivalry game to look forward to on the week. And just from a panelist on this show and somebody who's been paying attention to FAU football for the last 4 years as a student, all I'm really looking for is just like a good competitive game that's entertaining. I'm going to be tuned in because it's a Friday game. Every time Saturday comes around, everyone's looking forward to those games. But the way scheduling has been, there's been a college football game from Tuesday to Saturday, and I think it's really cool that FAU is going to kind of have that quote unquote primetime spot. So honestly, I don't really have too much to say from a ball standpoint, but if I had to make a prediction, I can't go with the enemy, so I'm gonna go with a FAU dub. I don't know by how many points. I don't know in what fashion it's gonna come. It could be a 3-0 game with a field goal to win it at the end. Who knows? I just hope that it's entertaining for all the fans, especially even for the people that are driving from who knows where, flying in from who knows where, because if you're making that trip to come to this game, you at least need to put on a show.
I'm trying to think of a score prediction, and I feel like this is just going to be like such a wacky type game. You know what I mean? Like, it feels hard to predict. I'd say low scoring. Like, neither of these teams have found a way to really light up the scoreboard at any point this year. Like, looking at them now, they're like neck and neck in scoring offense, and neck towards the bottom of the conference standings.
Yeah, South Florida ranks number 7th in total, number 9 in total scoring offense, and FAU's right below them at number 10. And then on defense, they're not even that much better either. USF is right pretty much in the middle of the pack, the 8th scoring defense, and FAU. It's actually not too bad at the number 6 scoring defense in the American Conference. So just
exactly like
definition of mid.
I would say very middle of the table. We're below average on offense, and then again on defense they're very similar too, because at times this year FAU's defenses looked like world beaters. Like at going into the North Texas game, they were 6th in the country and against the pass, I want to say, and they get a lot of takeaways, man. But there's also been stretches of games where they're giving up 38, 40 points consecutively. Same thing with USF. Very hot and cold defense, because you can look at times like when they played Alabama, held Alabama to 14 points, I want to say, through 3 quarters. That's world beater type defense. But then there's also been times where their defense has looked really, really poor. All that's to say, I have no idea what's going to happen on Friday night, because these have just been 2 really underachieving teams, and everyone knows how rivalry games go. Which is every which way, you know what I mean?
So, but if you had to throw out a prediction out there for a win or a loss for FAU, where are you going?
Give me FAU.
There you go.
And I'd say like in a 10-7 game, probably.
Yeah.
10-7? That's how low scoring you think it'll be?
These are 2 not very great offenses.
Where are you at with it, Megan?
Oh, my staff prediction will be completed tonight, but I think I got to go with FAU, obviously, but
100. Well, full disclaimer, 100% bias at this point.
This is coming from a biased student perspective. I don't have like my journalism like tag on right now, but score wise, I think it'll be higher than 10-7. Probably I'm hoping
I don't
like
have to sit through a 10-7 game.
23-17.
All right, let's get some touchdowns in there.
That's my score.
I will say, if there's anything that could possibly be, interesting potential for a high-scoring game, FAU's a top 5 rushing offense in the American. USF actually has a top 5 rush defense, so it'll be interesting to see how those two, how that chess match ends up looking. FAU's pass defense is still ranked top 5, ranked at number 4 in the American, and USF actually has an abysmal passing offense. So if I had to put money on it, I'm probably betting on a lower scoring game, which is unfortunate because when you're in that primetime spot and you have a rivalry game, you'd like to see some points. But who knows? Like Cameron said, maybe this is a game where both coaches just decide to throw the whole kitchen sink and put all their cards out there. And just throw the whole playbook out there. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and we'll definitely have some more to say on the next show when we react to the inevitable results. But moving away from football and touching briefly on basketball, FAU basketball just had their first exhibition match of the so-called preseason against the St. Leo University Lions, Division II school. Absolute blowout. The score was, let me get that, Megan.
It was 104-53.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so pretty much head coach John Jacobs has pretty much said since he started his tenure that he's going to seek out and make it an absolute mission to score 100 points every game. And going based off of the practice match, Paradise Madness, between the 2 teams that played each other, where the so-called starting lineup scored 60 points in half. If you do the math on that, that's 120 points for each half if we're going off averages. And then in this exhibition match against St. Leo, they scored 104. So the offense is explosive, and obviously don't want to get too excited over blowing out a Division II school where their tallest player was 6'8", and we have 2 7-footers on the team. But all that being said, FAU will be playing Auburn in a scrimmage, I believe, if not this week.
It's this Friday at 8 p.m.
This Friday at 8 p.m. They'll be playing the preseason number 11 team in the country, the Auburn University Tigers, where they have a preseason first team All-American. I want to say his name's something Broom. That's bad journalism, but I'm gonna look it up right now. But what's your expectations for that scrimmage? Because it's going to be in Auburn. It'll be that team's kind of first experience playing on the road against a Power 5 conference school, and obviously it doesn't matter win or lose since it is preseason. But this is going to be like a really strong litmus test for this roster, and how they respond to actually playing some competition that they're trying to be on level with. Obviously, FAU being a mid-major school, it'd be really tough to really compare them to any sort of Power 4 conference competition. But that's what they're aiming to be this season. With March Madness aspirations. These are the teams that you're gonna have to beat come March. So, just thoughts going into that. If they get absolutely blown out, is that a big concern, or where are we at with that?
I think this game is going to show, I don't want to use the word expose, but it's kind of how I mean, the weaknesses on this roster, because, a team like St. Leo, like JD brought up, Division II, the tallest player is 6'7", 6'8". They're not going to be testing, some of the big guys down low. So this game, I think, coming off this game, we'll know, a lot more about like some of the players we haven't really got to see in a game setting yet. Matas, big man down low, he's one of the ones me and you have talked about a lot. So yeah, like this is a completely different opponent. It won't look as pretty as it did against St. Leo, because this is just a really, really talented team. Like you said, they have a lot of highly rated players. And they have a head coach who's been in that position at Auburn for a while. So this is an established program versus an FAU team that is starting from, square one. So that's the result, you can usually expect. But that's not a horrible thing. That's why you schedule tough in the preseason, so that you can figure out what your weaknesses are early on and then address that as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting schedule choice by Jacobs and his staff, because I could see it where you have 2 preseason exhibition matches where it's 2 teams that are sort of maybe like maybe that first one is a little bit below FAU, maybe like a smaller mid-major school, maybe low-major school. Not on the level of a Division II school, maybe still a Division I school. I don't want to say like the Atlantic 10 Conference, because that's actually a pretty good conference, but maybe like an ASUN or a CUSA team, and then for that second one, maybe like a lower Power 4 school. I just think the severity and the difference between playing St. Leo and then the preseason number 11 team in the country in Auburn, I think that's a huge gap between the level of competition. So I think that's definitely an interesting choice. But
honestly, I think
please.
That's out of necessity, or not even necessity, but I don't think they're thinking into it that deep. I think like playing Auburn is like a conscious decision. Like playing the number 11 team in the country, accepting that game is a conscious decision. But I don't think it's like they were like that's like an effort to be like a warm-up game against a very like low opponent, maybe D2, and then like ramp it up. It's honestly probably that's just how it worked out, is what I would guess.
Oh yeah,
I think that works out to their favor.
No, for sure. I mean, because I know that St. Leo, yeah, it was Division II, but still it was the first time that they actually got to play together against an actual team, because there's only so much you can do when you're playing 5-on-5 with your own teammates, because you know what to expect from them. So they finally got to test out their skills, even though it wasn't as talented of a team. But we got they showcased some kind of probably impressive play calls that they want to incorporate throughout the season, and this gave them the opportunity to do it. And now with Auburn, I mean, they're ranked number 11 preseason, but you can finally, this is their chance to, in a game where it doesn't matter and won't actually hurt them, it will be exciting to see what they can do against a tougher level of competition, because St. Leo, they didn't even have a true center. And Auburn, they have Dylan Cardwell, and he's 6'11", so he matches up with Matas. I'm saying that correctly. Yeah. He's matching up with Matas, so they'll finally have that tough, play. And I think it's a good play, because even if they get blown out and realize, okay, this is all of the mistakes that we're doing, you can't really hold that and keep that for, October. We're in October now. I'm talking
you'd rather
November,
have that now
December.
than January.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just think the point that I was trying to make is that when you schedule somebody like St. Leo, you don't want to underestimate any opponent, and I'm not going to go on and make an assumption that that's what the team was doing, but this is kind of a team that you can kind of just chalk up as, let's practice, let's run some sets and build some chemistry, and then going into an Auburn game where they're ready to take your heads off. I just think if you would have kind of closed the gap between those two exhibitions where you could actually take that first one a little bit more serious in regards to, all right, maybe let's run some sets, let's play a little bit more serious defense, and then, all right, let's ramp up the style of play. Because I just think when, I couldn't come up with an analogy, but you play St. Leo and, you're kind of sleepwalking through that, and then you go into Auburn where, they have so much hype surrounding that program being a preseason ranked team and it being a charity match where all the proceeds are going to be going to the school. Auburn's looking to put on a show against FAU. So I don't want to obviously speak for anybody of why this was scheduled, but you can only assume that Auburn's looking to put on a show for their fans and for their students. So FAU really has to come in with that underdog mindset that they're going to have come March. So obviously this doesn't hurt them, and we'll be looking for the results of the game after Friday. But I mean, I'm just interested to see how they respond to competition that is going to be, at least on paper, way more talented than they are, because come March, and even honestly in some of these non-conference games that they have scheduled, they're going to play Michigan State in December. They have a tournament where they're going to be playing a couple of Power 4 schools and some high mid-major schools there. So, it'll be interesting to see how the team responds to that, since in this last exhibition game, it was kind of something that they were probably just sleepwalking through.
One player, in particular, obviously I am looking to see how all these transfer players are going to do, especially Matas, since he led the team with scoring, and he clearly has the capability to become the next starting center for the team. But Trey Carroll with 21 points, I was shocked to see that statistic after the game, and his teammate Devin Vanderpool was saying to expect to see him this season, which honestly it was not something that I was expecting. I kind of thought that he wouldn't become one of the starters and that it would be all of these new guys, but that's what I'm curious to see, if we're going to see that same type of gameplay with him in Auburn, because he did, even though he didn't really play throughout the games, but he did go with the team to the Final Four. He's had that experience, so I was impressed to see that he was a second leading scorer off of the first after St. Leo. I can't say expedition, right?
Exhibition?
Yeah, we're just not going to say it.
We're going to come back to that. But no, definitely a valid point, because when you look at the roster, they are kind of lacking size on that wing and on that perimeter. So Trey Carroll is going to definitely need to be that guy from a defensive standpoint, which historically, covering FAU basketball the last 2 years, he's really been more of that spark of offense off the bench, because he's definitely a hard cover, being around 6'8", in that 200-pound range. You can't necessarily put a guard on him because he's going to overpower them, but you also can't put a big on him because he's really quick. So I'm definitely excited to see how Trey Carroll evolves, because I believe the starting lineup from that exhibition game, they did end up running that 3-guard lineup. that we were talking about, where it was Leland at the point, Kiki Tandy at the 2, Ken Evans is kind of that small guard wing at the 3, and then they had Baba at the 4 and Modest at the 5. So, I was kind of expected that, with Ken Evans Jr. and Kiki Tandy being in their last year of eligibility, that they were probably going to get the most promised minutes in regards to all the players on the lineup. And I just think Leland has so much talent at that point guard spot and really handles the ball well that they really did need him in that ball handling spot. But it'll be interesting to see. I think the one thing that really did stand out to me from that exhibition game was the way they shot from 3. I believe it was 4 for 20 in the game. And, we've seen this before when Dusty May was the head coach, and we saw it the last 2 seasons for FAU men's basketball where, obviously over the years, basketball has really been trending towards live and die by the 3-point shot. And, when you have a 7-footer on the team, it makes it a lot easier to run that offense because in college you're really focused on, all right, if you throw that ball to the big man down low, probably going to have to double him and then you kick it out and there's definitely going to be an open man. But it ended up working out for FAU that year. They went to the Final Four because they shot historic numbers for FAU and they were one of the best 3-point shooting teams in college basketball that year. And then they kind of tried to strike lightning in the same spot twice, and it just that ended up being a lot of their shortcomings last season where they had games where they weren't shooting very well. And I remember there was like a 4-game stretch where Brian Greenlee hadn't made a shot over like 4 games, and he was one of the premier 3-point shooters during that Final Four run. So it makes me a little bit nervous when that's kind of the style of offense that is looking to be run, where you just want to get as many 3-point shots as possible, because if they're not hitting, then you need to adjust. And it's early. We haven't even seen an actual game that even means anything. So obviously, us as media on a panel, we need something to talk about. So we're gonna overreact. But I'm just curious to see how that team, how the team shoots from 3 as a collective group. Because if you have one guy who's making 5 of his 6 threes, and then the rest of the team's only making 3 or 4, that's just not a really good recipe for success. But we'll have to see how that turns out. Definitely curious to see how that Auburn game pops out. It shows up and everything. Can't talk. But no, I mean, it's going to be a packed Friday for FAU sports, and hopefully FAU football and basketball can walk away 2-0 that day. I think that would be best case scenario, but we'll have to see how that goes. But before we get into a little bit more of some FAU sports, the University Press has released its latest print issue of the semester, The Historic Election. Read about what the FAU community has to say about the election, some of the amendments on the ballot, and more. Grab an issue at your nearest UP newspaper bin or stop by the newsroom in room 214 of the Student Union. We have some newspaper bins in General Classroom South. We just recently put a new one in the College of Arts and Letters. So if you see anyone, it's free, grab it. And if you're looking for another copy, stop by room 214 in the Student Union.
Yeah. We also have them in all,
go ahead, you got it.
We also have them in all of the student dorms. So if you live in Glades, UVA, IVA, Heritage, they all got them in your lobbies.
Definitely a good point. So, just go down to the lobby, grab one, and read what we had to wrote. We worked on really hard on those stories, some long-form stories. And one of the stories that me and Megan got the pleasure to work on was kind of getting a political pulse on student athletes on campus. It feels like ever since, politics has become a really big thing in the country. People kind of look in, the celebrity culture to see what their favorites celebrities and athletes have to say about certain issues. And, obviously it's a touchy subject. We don't ever really want to get into it on our show, but we were just curious what the student athletes of FAU had to say in regards to just being politically engaged at all. Not looking to see who anyone's voting for or what their values are on any issues, just trying to test out and see, are people engaged, and if anyone's really keeping up with what's going on during this time. Because anytime it's an election year, it's just honest, it's become impossible to avoid. So what we decided to do was DM student athletes asking if they're politically engaged. We ended up doing it until our account got locked out for spam, which left us at the message 129 student athletes that we reached out to. And with that, out of those 129 that we reached out to, none of them responded to the question. The question that we asked them was, quote, hello, we are writing an article for FAU's University Press about student athletes and political involvement. Would you consider yourself politically involved in this upcoming election? And has it been a discussion point on your team? If you'd like to call us, we asked if they'd like to leave a statement or reach out to us via phone call. And a majority of athletes did not respond, left us on red or delivered or didn't respond. Some of them that did respond, one athlete said that he's not politically active, and we thanked them for reaching out in the response, while another athlete said he's from Canada, so he doesn't have anything to say. So just kind of get your thoughts on that, Cameron, in regards to the student athletes who maybe, why do you think they're possibly not engaged? Do you think, and coming from your perspective as a student here on campus, is it just a lack of not necessarily caring, or do you think student athletes just kind of have too much on their plate to really get involved?
I don't doubt that student athletes are politically engaged. I just doubt that they're very public about it, which might be wise on their part, honestly, because I don't say this to discourage athletes. But a lot of times that just breeds a distraction from what they're usually focused on, which is playing sports. No matter what you say or how you do it, when you step kind of into that arena, it's gonna get someone upset. So I assume that's why, and they wisely just, instead of being public about their thoughts, feelings, opinions, they just do that privately, which I think is wise.
No, for sure. Yeah, we definitely, there was no spite towards not getting any responses.
Oh, no. I wasn't expecting.
We weren't expecting any at all.
It was funny because we got a couple that were kind of asking, oh, what are you really doing about this? And then we're just like, no, we're not asking who you're voting for. That was a huge thing that we wanted to emphasize. I feel like a lot of people, when we kind of brought it up, were like, you guys want to know who I'm voting for, which is also, that needs to be a discussion. That is kind of a trigger topic now. It's almost no one wants to even share, whether you're not even a student athlete, if you're even just a student. I had to go around interviewing people for a different article in the paper about who you're voting for, and a lot of people just don't want to share that. So it's kind of a fear from just students in general about sharing their political perspectives. And for athletes, that's heightened because of the pressure that they have from, not from the school, but just they have an image. They're viewed now, they can get NIL deals and that type of thing. So they kind of probably feel the need that they have to present themselves in a certain way, which we can understand. We're journalists. We can't share our bias. We have just now, but we can't share our bias through our work. So they don't want to share their perspectives through their work either. No, yeah,
you guys definitely bring up some good points. And yeah, it is, just to be frank, it is sad that we've reached that point where it's not open discussion. And, it feels like there's so much, I don't want to use the word hate, but just kind of that civil discussions just can't be had in regards to the topic. And I think that was the main point of interest when we decided to tackle this story was, it was expected that, no student athletes really wanted to, say the wrong things. And I just feel like when it comes to certain discussions about politics, I don't feel like anybody should feel like there's a wrong thing to say. It's just a matter of discussion. And that's how we move forward, together as citizens of the United States and as a country to, have those tough conversations. And we did get to speak to, one student athlete who was actually, not afraid to speak about, where he stands on things. Enrique Toro, a sophomore cross-country athlete who's actually a political science major. He actually shared some really interesting stories where he went to an AAC conference in San Antonio. Yeah, it was like a media day or something like that, and they were having a panel discussion about NIL, and he ended up going on a huge tangent about how the student athletes are, they should be considered employees of the university, and he was just very had a lot of strong things to say about that regard. And he, when we had our interview with him, he thought that he was cooked and that he was going to get into a lot of trouble for what he had to say. And instead, he actually ended up getting nominated to give a speech about, political engagement at freshman convocation this past fall. And at that speech at freshman convocation, he ended up in closing remarks, stressing the importance of voting to the FAU student body, quoting that it is your civic duty as a citizen to make sure that your voice is heard and to make sure that we uphold democracy. So to close up that whole discussion, go out and vote. I still need to vote. Have you voted, Megan?
I've already voted.
Perfect. Have you voted, Cameron?
I have not.
I low-key still need to go vote too, but it's so easy. You can look up where do I vote online, and depending on where your city is, there's got to be an organization, a government website that can give you that information. So
yeah, and if you're registered, I'm registered in Orange County, so I just did my mail-in ballot. So if that works too.
Yeah, definitely make sure you do that before November 5th. With that, we're gonna get into some professional ball, get into some NFL. I feel like it's been such a long time since we've gotten into NFL because there's honestly, surprisingly, been so much to talk about with FAU athletics. But I want to say we're kind of slowly approaching that halfway mark. We still have some really big games lined up in the season for the NFL. We haven't even gotten to the Thanksgiving games. And there's a lot of teams that we can kind of already kick the can in regards to playoff hopes. While some teams are still fighting to make it to 500. But I want to give the two resident Chicago Bear fans and Detroit Lion fans, the platform to air out their grievances about where their team is at, how things have been going. The Lions are now dealing with an injury to their star defensive end, Aiden Hutchinson, while the Chicago Bears are dealing with heartbreak this past Sunday. So who wants to go first about their grievances?
I'll go first. So 2 weeks ago, Aiden Hutchinson, his injury, I'm always the type when I watch a player get injured, I physically hurt for them, and then watching him, it was just, I just want to send out my thoughts and prayers to him, and I hope that he instantly got rushed to the hospital. He had surgery done already on his leg. I mean, he's been posting with his family on the couch, oh, this isn't our typical Sunday, but supporting the team. And
that had to be tough. That's gotta be tough.
Yeah,
and sad.
for him, I would be so heartbroken knowing that that I could be out there playing, and he's our star defensive player. And that's what, after that injury, it was extremely nerve-wracking going into the Vikings game. I honestly thought that the Lions were about to get their butts kicked, and they pulled through with the last-second field goal by. Crap, I'm blanking.
I have him on fantasy.
I'm blanking on his name. I could have told you his name literally. I know, but okay, I'm blanking. But hearing the Lions kicker's journey is so cool because 18 months ago he wasn't even playing football anymore, and now in the last couple of seconds he secures the win against the Vikings, who also are divisional rivals, and then obviously just had the blowout win this past weekend over the Titans. So I'm feeling very great about this team right now. 6-1 is not, just as a Lions fan for 20 years, this is not a feeling that I've had in a while. So I hope that they can continue to persevere without Hutchinson. But maybe this Thanksgiving won't be as rough.
Yeah, shout out Jake Bates. I had him on fantasy.
Thank you. Yes, Jake Bates. Your story is very inspiring. 7
extra points kicked and 1 field goal for 12 points. Shout out Jake Bates. I still lost this week, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If I'm a Lions fan, I wouldn't. Obviously, I'm concerned about Aiden Hutchinson, but I don't think this is too grave of a loss. The Lions are still a wagon without Aiden Hutchinson. Because what makes the Lions so good is they have like the best offense in the league by far. Yes, losing Aiden Hutchinson is going to hurt their defense, but Dan Campbell's already like hinted at possibly like trading for another pass rusher.
Max Crosby. It's not happening, but that'd be fire.
That'd be wild. But even without Aiden Hutchinson, I still think this is one of the best teams in the league. Where I think you might, if they lose a couple of like their divisional games down the stretch, and it like messes with some seeding in the playoffs, maybe people will be thinking about, oh man, maybe if we just had another really high-end pass rusher, then. But as far as like how they like look right now, I don't think that's too grave of an injury.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely in a good spot. Their scheduling is definitely really interesting, where for their last 10 games of the season, 5 of those games are divisional rounds. So
I'm not sure, like, that's the, like, almost like all of the NFC North, like, it's actually kind of awesome considering, like, the NFC North is, like, the
premier
best,
division
like,
right now.
division in football, so, like, the last 7 weeks,
Yeah,
it's just, like,
it
fight to
makes
the
the
death.
last 7 weeks crazy.
It's going to be
Yeah, because you
awesome.
could be third place in that division from an overall record standpoint, but if you win out your divisional games, you could go from the third spot in the division to first.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, wouldn't want that to be me, but yeah, I think the Lions are in a good spot. I want to say, looking at their schedule, it's not easy. Their next game's against the Packers. They got the Texans there. There's really, I want to say, 2 games here that are potential just layups, which is against the Jaguars and against the Colts. You're looking at the 49ers. The hope is that they're going to be healthy come the end of December. So that, I wouldn't chalk that up as a win just yet. And then you got to play the Bills. And then after that, it's, all divisional games, and that division's really tough. So, if they address defensive end with somebody who's just a little bit above average to hold down Aiden Hutchinson until he comes back next season, that would be great. If they were to go for a home run and get somebody like a Jadeveon Clowney or a Myles Garrett, that would be definitely I wouldn't know who's stopping the Vikings, because it is unfortunate when you're losing your player who was pretty much in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. But it just seems like that team under Dan Campbell just has a way to plug holes. So,
Well, they have insane chemistry. Like watching
it's like the power of
watching the locker room speeches. It's like, wow, y'all are. I've never seen this type of. Also, their social media team is like amazing, but offensively, there's no question that they're doing amazing there. And I don't know. It's fun to watch football and not just be like, oh, yep, another loss.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I guess that's a great segue into what happened to the Bears this past Sunday against the Washington Commanders, losing on a last-second Hail Mary where Jaden Daniels was questionable coming into that game due to a rib injury, if he was even going to play or not. He does end up playing, and with I didn't get to watch too much Sunday football, but they had a lead, and it was Hail Mary, just you need to just catch the ball, and they did just that. And the Chicago Bears lose in a heartbreaker, in a game where you really want to steal because it's an away game, and it just fell right out of their hands. So, Cameron, I don't know if you want to share what your immediate reaction to that was. It probably wasn't safe for FCC Airways, which we aren't on. If we wanted to, we could curse, but we don't.
Yeah, it's good that we're doing this like 2 days removed from it. That was horrible, and the reason why I was really excited for that game, and for the same reason everybody else was. It's Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels, and they just come out and lay an egg for 59 minutes. But I don't even remember how many seconds left now, like 20 seconds left. They finally take the lead. Just to lose like that, it was one of the worst roller coasters of emotion I've ever been on. But the worst part is that all of this falls on coaching, in my opinion. We can start with Tyreek Stevenson taunting the crowd as the Hail Mary's happening. And not only that, your exact responsibility is the one who caught it and you tipped it. I can't think of like a worse play that I've seen. Only thing I can think of is Marco Wilson from Florida throwing the shoe and losing the game. If you know, you know. But that is 100% coaching, that a second-year starter is doing that. It 100% falls on coaching. And then think about the offense. You had 2 weeks. They were coming off a bye going into that game, and that was your game plan? That was what you come up with off of 2 weeks? And sure, partly that blame falls on Caleb Williams because he did not play great. He didn't. But when it came down to it, when we needed a game-winning drive, twice he put that on. And in doing so, he had to overcome coaching in a thought because of the mindless decision to hand the ball off to an offensive lineman with the game on the line. That's what you're coming up with, and then you get lucky and you get the ball back again. And you're in the red zone and you call a 3rd and 5 quarterback draw? What are we doing? What are we doing? And you somehow get bailed out of that and find a way to score. And then you get failed by terrible coaching again on a Hail Mary. It's so frustrating that we thought we had the quarterback. We thought we were over like losing stupid ways like this. Like we finally proved we can beat up on bad teams. And then you finally get in a game with a real opponent and to lose that way, it's disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah.
And spiel.
Brutal is the only way to put it. Tyreek Stevenson post-game after, missing his assignment on Noah Brown, who ended up catching the Hail Mary. When people broke down the film, that was indeed his assignment to box out Noah Brown. And on Twitter, he went to apologize, quote, "To Chicago and teammates, my apologies for lack of awareness and focus. The game ain't over until zeros hit the clock. Can't take anything for granted. Notes taken. Improvement will happen. Hashtag bear down."
Yawn. Nice chat GPT response, brother. Also, that's just like a clip of it. Also, in that like apology, quote unquote, he said he wasn't taunting Commanders fans and that he was cheering on Bears fans. Give me a break, brother. You were waving like this at Commanders fans as Bears fans are pointing at the play happening, telling you to turn around.
Hey, the play's still going on.
Watch the video. There are Bears fans like telling him, brother, turn around. The play is happening. But in absolutely no accountability in his apology, if that's what you want to call it.
So
he's just lucky that they're down a cornerback right now and they can't afford to bench him or cut him or whatever people are saying. He's lucky.
Yeah, he said quote, "I let the moment get too big, and it's something that can never happen again and won't ever happen again." But to Cameron's point, it probably won't ever happen again because you're out of a job, bro. And we were talking about it before the show. If this was college and that happened, dude would be cut. If this dude didn't have $1 million plus contract, he'd be done. But we could.
If that was not, it would be. I get it. It would probably be a different story. If it was not you are the sole responsibility for the guy who caught the touchdown. Not only that, you were out of position and like tipped it to him.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, it's also just it's so immature. Like, it's not like if you guys were up by a bunch in the game, it was like over, then yeah, sure. Well, you still shouldn't, but okay, if you want to taunt a little bit, go for it, I guess. But
the game's still on the line.
Yeah, and what? Because before the score, they won by 3, so it was only a 4-point game. How you not locked in at that moment?
I'm glad you bring that up because it's not like it was a Hail Mary from the 20. I want to say Washington ran 1 or 2 plays before that, and they purposely ran a 13-yard out route to set up the Hail Mary. Like, I just can't fathom, like, how that happens. Like, it 100%, like, if that comes on coaching, too. Because, as head coach Matt Eberflus, you're the one fostering the environment that, like, allows players to do that. And same thing goes back to, like the offensive, like, the horrible offensive coaching performance. Matt Eberflus, he calls the plays on defense. which they played really well, honestly. You know, with 2 seconds left in the game, they had Washington at 12 points. 99% of the time, that wins you a game probably. But you hired Shane Waldron, who's calling these, when I say mindless plays, mindless. So eventually the buck stops with you. It was just a complete coaching disaster class.
Yeah, I was going to say, on that point, being the head coach, Matt Eberflus, when you're a defensive-minded coach, right, there's 3 head coaches in the NFL, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. There's the offensive coach, there's the defensive coach, and there's the CEO coach, right? Matt Eberflus, generally, right, the pillars of head coaching, if you will.
Right.
Matt Eberflus being the defensive coach, right? Whether you're like, if you're like a Matt LaFleur who's the offensive guy, or if you're like a guy like Matt Eberflus, you're the defensive guy. That is your sole responsibility of that side of the ball. So for your dudes on that side of the ball to not be locked in, that is, at that point, it's not even an indictment on the defense, and it's an indictment on the whole team. And I just pulled up the play, and I'm rewatching it, and I want to end on this point because we're past the hour. But when you're defending the Hail Mary, right? They always say like, don't go and try to make a play on the ball, right? Knock it down. Just knock it down. But my thought process in a Hail Mary is, why don't you just man up on a guy, right?
No, I'm
because
glad
this
you
is,
bring that up.
look, if we're
I'm glad you
looking,
bring that up.
when we edit this clip, we'll put the screenshot that we're looking at right here. If this guy is just boxed out, he wouldn't even have an opportunity to catch it.
Thank you.
So why are we playing the ball in a Hail Mary situation? You should just have a dude on each eligible receiver. So even by the grace of God, because that's what a Hail Mary is, by the grace of the Lord, if he gets his hand on the ball, you just chop it out.
Thank you for bringing that up, because if you look at this, and I wish we had like a film breakdown we could show you, everybody is doing their job.
Look at this.
Except for Tyreek Stevenson. Let's look at Jalen Johnson up front on the Washington man. Let's wait and get down to it.
You got it.
This is called a scrum right here where the ball's coming. Washington has their man up here in case it gets tipped forward. Jalen Johnson's there covering it. Every man in the scrum is manned up, and you'll watch the guy who catches the ball properly move back
out of the scrum
just in case it's tipped. Where's Tyreek Stevenson? Right here.
That's his hand.
He's
That's his hand right there.
Boxing out this guy right here. Everybody, Jalen Johnson on the front, everybody manned up in the scrum is on their man except for our boy Tyreek Stevenson here in the front.
Got to be better.
Gotta be better.
Lack of awareness.
And
Why
shout out
don't
to
y'all
Ben
just start
Solak
coaching the
of
Bears,
ESPN.
like at this point?
We need to start.
Shout out to Ben Solak of ESPN for explaining that perfectly.
I saw a stat, and I want to end on this for you, Cameron. That I got this via ESPN Greenie, so if this isn't correct, trash on ESPN. But since this stat has been tracked by Advanced Stats, which was 2016, this is the longest time that a quarterback has been able to hold the ball and throw in a touchdown pass.
I'm so
which I want to say was around 19 seconds.
Because, ask my roommate, as that play was happening, as he's running around, like before, I was screaming, how does he have that much time? It's not even like they're like in a prevent. I guess they are in a prevent defense, but they're rushing 4. They're rushing 4 or 5 blockers. Yes, you're out, man, but he has something like 12 seconds to throw the ball. You can't get through and get hands on the quarterback in 12 seconds.
And my thought process, too, is like I'm not familiar with the Chicago Bears roster, but if I'm a defensive coach, I'm throwing my freshest legs out there because these guys look gassed trying to get at Jaden Daniels.
Well, I mean, I'm not exactly sure. Again, I wish the audience could be watching it. What Edmonds is doing, 53. I mean, he's not really rushing anybody.
He's quarterback spying. I don't know why they're expecting a rush on a Hail Mary play.
But again, even if they are just rushing 3, after 12 seconds, you should at least be able to, like, I don't know, stop him from getting the throw off. I don't know. I've seen, some football people being like, oh, you should or blitz the Hail Mary so he can't even ever get the throw off. That's one, school of thought, I guess. I don't know. It was just a complete fall apart on that play. I'm not sure.
Well, now, because of that play, Washington stands at 6-2 with an overall record, and they're right there in contention for that #1 spot in the NFC East.
Could have been the Bears. They wouldn't have been in that spot. But what makes this so frustrating is that 5-2 feels a lot different to me than 4-3.
100%.
It feels a lot different, and it's just This game is gonna, like, we're gonna have so much narrative ball off this game. And what sucks is that Jaden Daniels really didn't play that well, if we're gonna be frank about it. Like, sure, he had the prettier stat line. I think he finished with like 351, the one touchdown at the end, and one pick. A lot nicer looking stat line than Caleb Williams. But at the end of the day, neither of them played really well. But we're going to get so much of, Chicago made the wrong pick, blah, 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 because of one head-to-head, some weird, ugly head-to-head matchup 7 weeks into their career.
Well, what an exciting time for the NFL. And with that, we will be closing the show. Megan, where can the people find you?
You guys can find me at Instagram, Megan_Brunsma, and at Twitter, Megan Brunsma.
You can follow me on Instagram at jd.delcastillo and on Twitter, jd_Delcastillo.
You can find me on Twitter at CamPriester247.
Once again, thank you guys for watching UPress Play. We'll be back with another episode next week, Tuesday. We'll be getting to USF. We'll be having reactions to that Auburn scrimmage, and we'll be getting into some more NFL, NBA, just everything sports related. Want to thank you guys for watching, and yeah, that's been it, guys. Peace. Absolute.